Yeah, this is it. So, hello, I'm Anastasiia, and I'm a software engineer. Today, we're gonna talk about deep collaborations of designers and developers. But this is not a story about moving pixels. This is a story about building awesome products together. And this is Anna. She is designer at StanFi, and we are working with her together for many years. We were working on this story intense, and unfortunately, she cannot come, and without her, my presentation won't be full. But no worries, this is still a story from both sides of the table, and I will be happy if you will share feedback for both of us, actually. By the way, all these awesome drawings in the slides are made by Anna. They are really cool. Another person I want to introduce you is Dr. J. Dr. J is a transplant surgeon based in New York. And by the time you usually finish your breakfast, Dr. J may transfer a kidney from one person to another. He is really cool. Dr. J approached us to build a medical reminder application for transplant patients. By the way, raise your hands who have ever forgotten to take medication pills on time. Well, we knew that. Actually, half of the people forget about taking their drugs, and this is called medical non-adherence. And if it's just vitamins, you're fine. But when we are talking about transplant drugs, missing a single dose can cause a death. So actually, we were able not to just build yet another application, because, it's really important when people die if they forget to take drugs. We were trying to solve the problem and to get why is it happening and to how we can actually help those people. So we built a transplant hero application. This is an application for transplant patients to create a habit of taking medications on time. And today, I'm going to show you how we were working on, and we will start from usual non-collaborative design and developers process. And we will discuss why it does not work. After that, I will share you the process how we were working on transplant here at StanFi, and you will walk away with a set of actionable steps that you can actually use in your team for collaboration. So, let's start from usual non-collaborative approach. It may sound really familiar to you. This is how a design process usually looks like. The designer starts from diving deep into problem space, conducting interviews with stakeholders and potential users, and studying competitors. We, developers, don't do anything. Once designers collected all the data, they are trying to make sense of it, they are brainstorming ideas, and they come up with some kind of prototypes. We, developers, continue doing nothing. At the implementation phase, designers start making ideas tangible by creating prototypes, and hopefully they share those prototypes with public, get some feedback, and update those prototypes. We developers don't do anything again till the moment when designers are ready for implementation. Then they call us, and this is what happened. So designers come to engineers with their great ideas, with their prototypes, and explaining why they designed it, what they designed. And what we start to do, we start to criticize the ideas. We start to ask questions. We start saying that something will take ages to implement. That's me basically saying all the time. So raise your hands who have ever been in this kind of situation. Yeah. However, this approach has some pros. For example, everyone do a part they are really best in. Designers come up with user experience flow and interface design. Developers are building those things. Moreover, you can start moving faster because you don't need to wait until all team will be available. You can start with the designer alone. And of course, there are cons of this approach. First of all, designers' ideas may be difficult to implement. Then designers may be unaware on some technical possibilities that can make solution better. And of course, developers feel disengaged because they don't understand the reasons of these solutions. As a result, you need to spend your time to reiterate mock-ups after getting feedbacks from developers, to add new ideas and to simplify some things. Actually, you're kind of wasting your time on making non-ideal solution, and your developers are super sad. No one wants this, right? So let's see how we tweaked this process when working on Transplant Hero at Stanford. We will talk about creating the whole new application from the scratch, but actually you can use all these ideas when you're working on new feature, on new version of the app. So if you want to try all these shiny techniques, you don't need to change the company. You can do it working on your project continuously. Every design project has to start from the research. It helps you to answer questions and to make important decisions about product and a business model. We need to understand users we are designing for, their needs, their behavior, and the context in which they potentially would use our application. This means conducting a series of user studies that involve potential users, not just discussing ideas inside your team, but reaching out to talk with real people. If you haven't done this kind of user research before, I really suggest you and I recommend you to do it because it's a fun and kind of rewarding process. Research enables us to define the problem and to design the right experience for real people that actually will use your product. Even if you're working on existing product or feature, user research will inspire you about new functions and enhancements you can build into your existing product. So, when you prepare for research, first you need to know research goal and the questions. Think, what are you trying to find out? What do you want to learn? What are those things you actually don't know? Research goals and questions give the research meaning and determine the results of research. For example, for Transplant Hero, their main research goal was to identify the main reasons why people forget to take their medications. And our research questions were how patient life changed after the surgery. What are the main challenges they faced? In which context they would potentially interact with the app? So, when you have identified the goal and the questions, you need to move on and to understand how to get the answers. And there are a set of methods of different research activities you can do, including observations, diary study, ethnography, user interviews. All those shiny techniques have advantages and have trade-offs. So how to select one? Is actually based on your research goals and questions. We won't go deeper into this classification. I want to encourage you to learn more. However, typically we want to know better our users and to assess the design solutions, right? So we want to actually make those user research multiple times on different stages. For Transplant Hero, we choose generative research, we choose user interviews, and our goal was to step into transplant patients' shoes and to understand their life better. As I said before, we were trying to figure out what exact problem are we solving, who are we building this for, and what is the context where users will potentially use our app. Our research included a series of one-to-one user interviews, talking with them by phone and by video. And mostly we were talking with transplant patients, transplant surgeons, and nurses. Of course, our main focus was on transplant patients. And we asked them about a variety of topics about their lives. How they lived before and how their lives was changed. The difficulties they are experiencing, and, this is important, the computer and mobile habits they have. We wanted to hear their stories, their breakdowns, and their happy moments. That's why we prepared a handy checklist for our user interviews. For example, don't ask yes or no questions. Don't ask leading questions. The example of these questions are like, are you tired? Or do you like sugar because it's sweet? Those questions already have answers inside, and you actually limit people's imagination. Instead, you should ask an open questions, trying to get their stories. A good example of open question is, imagine if you had a magic wand, what should you do? What would you do? And sometimes answers are unexpected. We, as designers and developers, we tend to look for solution inside our problem domain, like building an app, right? But it may happen that users solve this problem using a pen and a paper, and then they don't need your app at all. And this is important to realize during the research phase. Don't go deeper if you realize that they don't need your app. Usually during our usual chatting, we try to avoid those awkward pauses. But during user interviews, those pauses are super important. Basically, you should be all ears during 90% of time, and you should be talking only 10% of time. Or, in short, like, shut up and listen. While preparation to research may be done by designers themselves, it's usually useful to invite developers to join user sessions. During those interviews, I noticed how my attitude changed. I didn't have a feeling that I'm making an app. I had a feeling that I'm building a useful tool for the real people to help their lives. Moreover, we were talking with different kind of people, and we suddenly got new ideas and new must-have features that we should build in our app. For example, after talking with elderly people, it happens that we should support dynamic type font in our application. After talking with children, we got the insight that probably we should add totally useless animations inside our app just to focus their attention on medication taking process. One of the most important things during user interviews is to keep your engineers engaged. Ask them to write down ideas they heard, for example, in 3 different sticker notes. Ask them to write down some insights on green notes, some questions or doubts they have on a red note, and some useful ideas also as well. After user interviews, we usually spend 10 to 30 minutes discussing what we have, and we add more stickers, and we divide those stickers in different groups. For example, what I heard, what I saw, and what stood out. This is super helpful to do in a whole team with people you have just during the user interview, because it keeps everyone involved. So, if you're a designer, always conduct research before coming up with solutions, and invite your engineers to join user research sessions. If you're an engineer, ask designer to be invited. Join those sessions. Listen carefully, trying to get where the user focus on, where their attention is. However, sometimes interviews are not enough. This is pictures of me being in a hospital in New York. I was observing the transplant surgery during 5 hours. The idea is that you should be close to your users as much as possible, trying to get their experience. This helps you to be patient. This helps you to be involved, and it leads to better products you make. What does it all mean? Once we collected the data, we start gathering it together and look for meaningful patterns. Research results serve us as a basis for future assumptions and ideas. During the previous research phase, it was optional to invite engineers on these researches. But during the analysis, it is really super important. Working together to examine the specific behaviors and concerns will help your team to share the same vision. So what you actually need is sufficient time, willing colleagues, a room with whiteboards or empty walls, stickers, and a pen. It's super easy. Analysis is always a fun group activity. You get to the room with your team, you review all the notes together, you make some observations, and you turn them to ideas. And this is the point where design usually starts. You take all this messy data and you begin to organize it, to group it, and to label the groupings. Through the conversations, the concept and the main interactions may emerge, and the deep understanding is shared. Actually, it's pretty simple. First, you have a board with a lot of stickers. Then you try to group those stickers by ideas. Then you try to look on this picture from the bird's eye and try to understand the patterns that emerge. And you end up with visual representation of your research that you can apply on design solutions further. It's useful to hang this kind of visualization somewhere in an office in a high-traffic area, for example, on the way to the meeting room or on the way to the bathroom. And it's useful to put a sign like, hey, do you have something to add? A set of sticker notes and a pen. So people will move through, read your ideas, and probably add something. This way, you don't only share the whole ideas, but you make everyone to be involved in the project. The third stage is the implementation stage. User research allows us to gain a more deep understanding of what challenges our user faced in their post-operative period. Also, the interactions between patients and the caregivers. Our next step is to transform our research into meaningful and actionable insights that will become the foundation of design. We conducted ideation sessions as a team to make sense of what we have learned and the design to actually build the design principles of Transplant Hero and to sketch some UI interfaces. And this is a useful process that you should reiterate again and again to test your solutions. Always involve your developers in this kind of user testing, because users review the design prototype, and it might happen that they don't understand some of the things. So you should be flexible enough and quick enough to change prototypes again, and again. In fact, involving engineers in the sketch phase is also super useful, because you got these insights of what is better to build, what will be complicated to build, or maybe what open source components we can use on some screens. During the whole project development, it's important to have this shared ownership of the product. While we were developing, while we were writing code as engineers, we already have the designs and the understanding how it works. But suddenly, while we were coding, we were changing the designs because we had new ideas, because we thought that something will be more useful or something will have a better suit. And it was not a problem that the implementation is different from the design, because the design is a process, and you as a team, it's a continuous process, and you as a team are continue doing it again and again and again. Now, I want to show you how insights we got from the research phase influence our design solutions. So, one of the first research questions we had, why don't existing reminder application help? We found out that the standard reminder application, they try to be useful for every patient and try to have those monstrous interfaces with a lot of configurable things. And we decided that Transplant Hero should be only about transplant patients and their special treatment. That's why we actually have a lot of content in the app predefined, so users don't need to type in their medications. We already can assume what medications they will take, and people don't need to spend their time. Second, during the first several months after the surgery, patients are overwhelmed with the amount of new information they have, because this is their new life. They need to learn how their body works. They need to learn how their immune system works and how to take care about their new organ. So we decided that Transplant Hero should be a smart guide to anti-rejection medicine. That's why we do a lot of things instead of users, this kind of smart defaults. When you're scheduling your drugs and you select a number of times a day you want to take it, we already pre-calculate the best taking time, so you don't need to. But all the things, they are easily customizable. So if your routine doesn't fit, you can change it easily. The third insight was that many patients believe that the day of surgery is their second birthday. They start a new life. They start being cured, And we decided that Transplant Hero should be fun and bright and celebrating. And we put a lot of cute images in the app, because the application made people smile. And we created actually all those cute organs, and users see those organs when they log in their medications. Moreover, we put a lot of attention to the words. We don't call, inside the app, we don't call our users as patients. We call them heroes, because now they are heroes of their lives. It happens that a lot of people don't admit that they are missing medications. In fact, they even don't pay attention that they suddenly miss a medication dose. And when you're taking vitamins, it's okay. But when you have a new organ, you should take those immunosuppressant medications, anti-rejection medicine. And if you miss one dose, it can have bad consequences. You can appear in a hospital. So we wanted to emphasize how important it is not to miss a dose. And our first naive approach, our first naive solution was to kind of stress users, like, don't miss your dose. And we had the idea to put a school image there. like literally, because if you miss your dose, you will die. However, guilt, shame, and stress, it won't help. Patients are already super stressed, and we decided that Transplant Hero should be a gentle reminder. It should be a friend. It shouldn't stress our users more. So we put here a flower that starts losing its petals when you're missing your doses. We try to be pushy, but gentle at the same time. We should build a personal connection between the application and the patient, between the patient and the doctor. And we should encourage patients to follow their medication regimen. Transplant Hero should inspire people, but it should persistently prompt not to forget their medications. How we achieved that? Again, we had a group session with a lot of stickers and a lot of funny images. And actually here, we are discussing why do people whose lives depend on those small pills, why do they forget to take those pills? And how we may fix that. Working together, we came up with the idea that we should turn these strict procedures into a game. Eventually, we came up with a whole gamification flow that involves user into a game and challenges him or her to take medications on time, eventually becoming a transplant superhero. So this is a set of cute awards user may achieve taking their drugs on time. And this is a transplant superhero. This is a super achievement that users may achieve after half a year of taking medications on time without missing any dose. And actually, I'm proud that we have users that have already achieved Transplant Superhero Award. During the implementation phase, we were conducting all those one-to-one interviews, combining broad discovery questions with playing with a prototype. We were trying to understand if people understand the app, understand how to use it, and understand the messages we put in this app. As a result, we trashed a lot of ideas. Believe me, it was a brilliant ideas. But we trashed them because actually users don't really need them. We avoid building unnecessary stuff. We focus our efforts, our time and budget on things that really matters for our users. This is an example of how we changed the taking medication screen, the history screen that caregivers see. So there is a hero and a caregiver. And caregiver can see the schedule and the history of takings. And our initial thought was that caregivers are interested in emotional state of heroes. Because, you know, people after surgery, they don't feel really happy. They feel bad. So we believed that caregivers should pay attention on emotional state. But after user interviews, it happens that the most important piece of information for caregivers is actually whether user has taken medication or not. So we changed the screen. We removed all unnecessary functions. We leave only things that users are really interested in. We conduct all those user interviews using different tools. For example, we use Hangout and Zoom for moderated interviews, and we use services like usertesting.com for unmoderated interviews. We also make prototypes in Envision, so users can actually play with prototype. The unmoderated tests are super useful. Basically, unmoderated tests means that you just create a test, put it in your system, and assign some users into it. Then you just watch a video of how people handle those tests, how they handle your prepared questions, and you don't interact with them, you don't hound them. You just watch, you just observe on things that were easy to do for them and things that were probably difficult to do for them. The good thing about remote study is that it allows you to involve a large number of observers into your study. Because it may look weird if you invite all your team, especially when the team is big, into one room to make a user interview with someone. But in our case, in case of remote studies, you have pre-recorded video and you actually can share the video with your team to gather their feedback, and then you grab all them together just to discuss videos. For example, here you can see the summary of the tasks and votes of developers on what they think is the most significant problem to address in the first place. So we want you to work more effectively as a team, and we have several tips for you. First of all, it's all about collaborative design. So engage developers into your user studies and into your design decision process. If you're a developer, try to find ways to be involved into design process. You don't have to be on every user research session, but you have to know your users. Then visualize all the artifacts of your user studies and hang them in a place where everyone can see them easily. For example, on their way to the meeting room or to the bathroom. We usually put a set of sticker notes and a pen, so if you have new random idea, you can actually put it down right now. Then move into one room. This helps designers to become more educated about dev topics and vice versa. Actually, developers may ask designers some questions and some clarifications about design. And what is more important, the small talks and the informal discussions that arise, they lead to cool and probably unexpected ideas, like a fluffy liver, Of course, you can work remote. For example, we are working remote most of the time. And for this case, we have a large Slack channel for designers and developers, where we post interesting stuff about anything that helps us to become better in design. And don't throw away your ideas that you come up during development. Put all of them into backlog. Even if you don't have time right now to implement all those shiny things, probably it's better to write it down and to keep in mind, and probably you can implement them on next iterations. We make our demos together, and this is a picture of us making a demo to Dr. J, and it was his birthday, so we are wearing those birthday cones. It was really fun. We were showing our new features we built. Sometimes the demos with Dr. J, they are unexpected because you're showing your super beautiful animation and super beautiful button, and Dr. J suddenly has a call from a hospital saying that he has a surgery in 40 minutes. And you realize okay, I was going to talk about this button, but it's not really important, just a button. Moreover, we are big fans of drawing retrospectives. We love them a lot. For example, here, everyone drew a visual representation of themselves, and we were discussing our communication strategy and actually what can be improved. So we not only have all those retrospectives, we have them in an interesting form, and we also try to use them. To build something useful after them. Here, we combined drawings with stickers, and we were discussing again the several last sprints, how good we were in our communication with users, with Dr. J, and inside our team. When we are working remote, of course, those offline boards, they don't help. So we're using online tools like Figma. This is a totally online retrospective, and we have prepared a set of images. Again, Anna has drawn all these images. And during the retrospective, we just put them on the board and add some stickers. I don't know, it's me, riding the dinosaur. I don't know why. I mean, eventually there was some kind of thoughts behind it, but half a year after, I just don't remember. Moreover, we had a plasticine retrospective. Do you know what this plasticine clock represent? They represent amount of bugs and difficulties we had while we were developing schedule pills for users in a different time zones. Because time zones are disaster. On some point, we decided that those shiny pictures should not be only pictures, and we want to have those fluffy organs, touchable. So we created a whole set of this fluffy organ, and they are in our office, and on any point you can go and touch them. It's a little bit creepy, I know, but it's super fun. This is what actually makes your work process more fun. It's a common belief that product makers should use the things that they have created. For example, I'm using Transplant Hero every day. I don't have any transplant in my body, but I use Transplant Hero sometimes to take vitamins or drugs. But most of the time, I fake taking a transplant pill. Why? Well, because our users are lifetime users. They are using our application for months. They are using our application for years. And we should feel their experience. This is why I use it actually every day. I want to understand how it feels when you use it every day. I want to understand if there is new features we can build to make the process even more easy than it is now. And moreover, it's easy to find edge cases. For example, I'm flying a lot, and when you schedule something and you're changing time zone, there may be some problems. So it's better to find this kind of problems while you're testing that to get this feedback from your users. In short, this is the key points we wanted to share with you. I have already mentioned all of them. And I have one more thing for you to tell. Often we get a feedback from our users, and we share this feedback within the team because we are proud of it, because it's part of our process, because we understand how important is what we are working on. And this is a feedback from mother of one of our transplant patients. Should I read it aloud, or you have read already? I think you have read it already. So, thank you. If you have any questions about our design and developer collaboration, about how we build what we are building, or about Transplant Hero, feel free to ask.
I have first just a couple of questions and then one remark. The first question is, did you include all the developers involved and all the designers involved in all the discussions, or were there owners and were things being delegated?
Well, of course, we try to involve everyone. It's not happen usually, because if you have a large team, it's difficult to find the time slots. But in a Transplant Hero, our team is not so large. Being honest, we have, Anna is designer. I am a lead developer. We also had more developers to work on iOS side and on Android side. And we had software engineers in test, quality assurance engineers. So it was 5 people maximum. We try to invite them on these user sessions, but when you're trying to speak with users and there are 5 people on this side of the table, it feels weird right? So we try to have this intimate atmosphere, and most people, most developers are on the rare side, for example, or we record some user sessions. But when we are talking about creating mockups, when we are brainstorming the design ideas, we try to involve everyone, actually, in a team.
My other question is, do you have any remarks or thoughts about how this form of collaboration has affected three things? First of all, the time schedule of things, has it increased or decreased, and to what extent? How many features or the change of features throughout the process? If you decided, or if developers or engineers who have little, I would call it just a little different perspective of user experience on the app functionality, and eventually the budget, if that changed or if that affected it somehow because developers were being used in a designer's experience.
Of course, it affects the time and the budget, but the thing is that you are the one to select how you want to work. So if you prefer having a process when designers design, create some kind of specifications, developers develop, quality assurance test, and then we release, it's up to you. In our case, it's kind of non-collaborative process, yes? It has its own pros. It's OK to do this. In our case, we are building products, and we don't have this, the final solution. We don't know the final solution. We are building things to get to the solution. We don't have this deep understanding of the product when we start working on it, because it's undiscovered area, it's undiscovered problem, and we attract everyone to discover this. And it will happen that actually, if you invite developer on user interviews and spend their time on the interviews, this will cost you less money than if in the side of development phase you realize that you forgot something. It's really complicated to measure.
Okay, then the last one last remark. Of course, amazing presentation, but I just wanted you please to send Anna the regards, because these are amazing slides. They're just splendid.
Send your warm wishes, send your hugs to Anna. I really, really ask you. Send your feedback for us all. It's super important for us, okay? Okay.
Hi. Firstly, congratulations for the presentation. I think it's one of the best presentations that I have seen about design from a software engineer. You did really well.
Thank you.
And the question is, like, we are trying to do the same thing in my company, to involve more the developers and designers. We had two problems. One we already answered about, like, have time from the developers to do some stuff in the design, but also to keep developers motivated to learn about design or to get involved in the design stuff. Because, like, they like design, they understand, but they prefer to code, they prefer to spend their time coding, or even, like, learn about coding, code. And how do you keep your developers? I can see that you are really involved, you like this, but I don't know if everyone in your team likes
I'm sure that there are people who prefer design only or code only, and it's okay. I mean, it's not a problem, it's okay. Let people do whatever they want to do to make them happy, to make a development process more fun and more enjoyable for everyone. I was telling a lot of things you can do to share this feeling of ownership, to share this feeling of being involved into building. And all those funny retrospectives, we do them for people to understand that they are part of the whole process. If they prefer to code only, it's not a problem, but still they are part of these discussions. Somehow, eventually, some of them are really interested in reading about design. Slack channel helps. Because if you don't share all the things, there is like how people can get them if they are out of their main interest. So this sharing, it helps. Those sessions we conduct together with designers and developers, they helps. Sitting in the same room helps. So just increase the level of collaboration. I understand that when you're working remote, it may be complicated, and everyone may feel that they are, inside their boxes. But this is the main challenge when you're building a product as a team, to get everyone involved. Thank you again. Thank you. It was a pleasure to tell you all the things. You can touch a fluffy liver if you want after my talk, and probably have a nice lunch.